Imagine being sold by your parents. Not metaphorically, literally sold. Handed over to strangers for a contract that would control your entire childhood. Imagine being beaten every single day, starved, broken, molded into something that wasn't quite human anymore. Now imagine taking all that pain, all that suffering, and turning it into $400 million and a legacy that will outlive us all. This is the story of Jackie Chan, and I'm going to tell you how a boy worth nothing became a man worth everything. Hong Kong, 1954. The year Jackie Chan was born, his parents didn't celebrate. They couldn't afford to. Charles and Li Chan were so poor, they were considering leaving their newborn son at the hospital because they couldn't pay the medical bills. Charles worked as a cook at the French embassy. Li was a housekeeper. Together, they barely made enough money to feed themselves, let alone a baby. Jackie's birth wasn't a blessing. It was a burden. Another mouth to feed in a city already drowning in poverty. They named him Chan Kong Sang, which translates to born in Hong Kong. Not a name chosen with love or hope. Just a geographical fact. A reminder of where he came from, nothing more. Jackie's earliest memories were of hunger. Constant, gnawing hunger that made his stomach hurt and his head spin. He remembered watching his parents eat their small portions of rice and vegetables, hoping there would be leftovers. There rarely were. Hong Kong in the 1950s was a refugee city, flooded with people escaping mainland China after the Communist Revolution. Jobs were scarce. Food was scarcer. Survival was a daily battle. Charles and Li worked brutal hours. They left before sunrise and returned after sunset. Jackie was often alone, wandering the streets of Hong Kong's poorest neighborhoods. He saw things no child should see. Violence, addiction, desperation. He learned quickly that the world was not a kind place. That no one would save him. That if he wanted to survive, he would have to become tougher than his circumstances. When Jackie was 6 years old, his father came home with news that would change everything. The French embassy was transferring Charles to their office in Canberra, Australia. It was an opportunity for better pay, better living conditions, a chance to escape the crushing poverty of Hong Kong. But there was a problem. They couldn't afford to bring Jackie with them. The cost of an additional plane ticket, the expense of raising a child in a foreign country, it was too much. They had a choice to make, and they chose to leave him behind. Charles had heard about a place called the China Drama Academy, a boarding school that trained children in Chinese opera, acrobatics, and martial arts. It was run by a man named Yu Jim Yuan, known as Master Yu. The school had a reputation. Some said it produced the finest performers in all of Hong Kong. Others said it was a prison that destroyed children. Charles didn't care about the rumors. He cared about one thing. Master Yu would take Jackie off their hands. The agreement was simple. Charles would sign a contract giving Master Yu legal guardianship of Jackie for 10 years. In exchange, Jackie would receive training, food, and shelter. Charles wouldn't have to pay anything. In fact, Master Yu would essentially own Jackie until he turned 16. It wasn't adoption. It wasn't education. It was indentured servitude dressed up as opportunity. Jackie was too young to understand what was happening. He remembered his father taking him to a large building with high walls. He remembered meeting Master Yu, a stern man with cold eyes and calloused hands. He remembered his father signing papers. And then he remembered his father leaving, just walking away, not looking back. Jackie stood in the courtyard of the China Drama Academy, surrounded by dozens of other children, and realized he had been abandoned. The first night was the worst. The children slept on thin mats on a wooden floor, no pillows, no blankets. The room was freezing. Jackie cried silently, trying not to make noise because he had already learned that weakness was punished here. Around him, other children cried too. Some had been there for years. They knew what was coming. They knew that tomorrow the real training would begin. And nothing could prepare you for that. Master Yu's training philosophy was simple. break the children completely, then rebuild them into perfect performers. Every morning began at 5 a.m. The children were dragged out of bed and forced to stretch. Not gentle stretching. Painful, bone-bending, muscle-tearing stretching. Master Yu would walk between the children, pushing their legs further apart, bending their backs at impossible angles. If a child screamed, they were hit. If they cried, they were hit harder. Jackie learned quickly to swallow his pain, to make his face blank, to pretend he was somewhere else. After stretching came acrobatics training, handstands, backflips, somersaults. The children practiced on hard wooden floors with no mats, no safety equipment, no mercy. Jackie fell constantly in the beginning. He landed on his head, his shoulders, his back. His body was covered in bruises that never fully healed before new ones appeared. Master Yu showed no sympathy. Again, he would say. Just that one word. Again. Again. Until your muscles gave out. Until you couldn't stand. Until you performed the move perfectly or passed out trying. Then came martial arts training. Kung Fu, Hapkido, Taekwondo. The children learned to kick, punch, block, and grapple. They practiced on each other, which meant Jackie was constantly being hit by older, stronger students. His nose was broken twice before he turned 8. His ribs were cracked so many times he lost count. He learned to fight through pain that would hospitalize most adults, because stopping wasn't an option. Weakness wasn't tolerated. Food was scarce and used as a weapon. The children received 2 small meals a day, rice with vegetables and occasionally a tiny piece of meat. But if you made a mistake during training, if you failed a move, if you talked back to Master Yu, your meal was taken away. Jackie spent many nights lying on his mat, stomach cramping with hunger, listening to other children cry themselves to sleep. He learned to steal food when the instructors weren't looking. A piece of bread here, an apple there. Survival required cunning as much as strength. The psychological torture was worse than the physical abuse. Master Yu had a system of public humiliation designed to crush any sense of self-worth. If a child performed poorly, they were forced to stand in front of the entire school while Master Yu listed their failures. "You are worthless," he would say. "You will never succeed. You are an embarrassment to your family." The words cut deeper than any punch. Some children internalized these messages and gave up. They became hollow shells, going through the motions without hope or ambition. But something different happened to Jackie. Instead of breaking him, the abuse forged him. Every insult became fuel. Every beating became motivation. He decided that he would become so good, so undeniably talented, that even Master Yu would have to acknowledge him. He practiced longer than the other students. When everyone else collapsed from exhaustion, Jackie would sneak out to the courtyard and continue training. His hands bled from repetitive drills. His feet were covered in calluses that cracked and bled. His body was a map of injuries. But he kept going. By the time Jackie was 10 years old, he had become one of Master Yu's best students. Not the best. That honor belonged to Sammo Hung, an older boy who seemed immune to pain and performed every move with mechanical precision. But Jackie was close. He was faster than most, more creative. He had a natural sense of timing and rhythm that made his performances captivating. Master Yu noticed, and that notice came with a new burden, higher expectations. Master Yu created a performance troupe called the 7 Little Fortunes, consisting of his 7 best students. Jackie was among them. The troupe performed at Chinese opera houses across Hong Kong, putting on elaborate shows that combined acrobatics, martial arts, and theatrical storytelling. The performances were grueling. They lasted for hours. The children wore heavy costumes and makeup. They performed complex fight choreographies with real weapons. Mistakes weren't just embarrassing. They were dangerous. Jackie saw students get seriously injured during performances. Broken bones, concussions. One boy fell from a platform during a show and shattered his leg. The performance didn't stop. The show always went on. But these performances gave Jackie something unexpected. an audience. For the first time in his life, people were watching him not to criticize or punish, but to be entertained. He heard applause. He saw smiles. He felt, briefly, like his suffering had a purpose. Like all the pain he had endured was building towards something meaningful. It wasn't love. It wasn't acceptance. But it was validation. And for a child who had been abandoned and abused, validation was everything. The money from these performances went directly to Master Yu. The children received nothing. They were unpaid labor, circus animals performing for their master's profit. Jackie didn't care about the money yet. He was still too young to understand its value. What he cared about was the possibility that this skill, this brutal training, might be his ticket to a different life. A better life. A life where he wasn't worthless. When Jackie turned 16 in 1970, his contract with Master Yu ended. Legally, he was free. But freedom meant nothing when you had no money, no family, and no prospects. The only skill he had was the ability to flip through the air and take a beating. What kind of future could he build with that? The answer came from the Hong Kong film industry. Martial arts movies were exploding in popularity, and studios needed stuntmen. Lots of them. Men who could fall from buildings, crash through walls, and get lit on fire without complaining. Men who were disposable. Jackie fit the profile perfectly. He started working as a stuntman, taking any job offered. He was paid almost nothing. 5 Hong Kong dollars per day, barely enough for a meal. The work was dangerous and degrading. He was furniture. A prop. A body to be thrown around by the real actors. But Jackie worked harder than anyone else on set. He showed up early. He stayed late. He volunteered for the most dangerous stunts that other stuntmen refused. He was kicked in the face by Bruce Lee during the filming of Enter the Dragon and considered it an honor. He was set on fire, thrown off buildings, crashed through glass, and never once complained. Directors noticed. Stunt coordinators noticed. This kid was different. He wasn't just durable, he was creative. He would suggest improvements to fight choreography. He would demonstrate techniques that made scenes more dynamic. He was thinking like a performer, not just a stuntman. Years passed. Jackie remained a nobody. He worked on dozens of films and never received screen credit. He lived in a tiny apartment that he shared with other stuntmen. They slept on floors, ate instant noodles, and dreamed of the day someone would notice them. Many of Jackie's friends gave up. They returned to their villages. They found factory jobs. They accepted that their dreams were unrealistic. Jackie couldn't accept that. He had survived the China Drama Academy. He had survived abandonment and abuse. He would survive this too. Then came the Bruce Lee disaster. After Lee's death in 1973, Jackie was briefly given a chance at stardom when director Lo Wei tried to mold him into the next Bruce Lee. We already know how that ended. Failure after failure. Public humiliation. Jackie's brief taste of hope turned bitter. By 1977, at 23 years old, Jackie was broke, depressed, and seriously considering quitting the film industry forever. He had nothing. He was nothing. He had come full circle back to the worthless child his parents had abandoned. But then Yuan Wu Ping gave him Snake in the Eagle's Shadow in 1978. Finally, a director who understood that Jackie wasn't Bruce Lee and never should be. The film was made on a microscopic budget. No one expected it to succeed. It was supposed to be a cheap comedy to fill empty theater slots. Instead, it became a phenomenon. Audiences loved it. Critics praised it. Jackie Chan finally had a hit. Drunken Master came next, cementing Jackie's status as Hong Kong's newest star. But stardom in Hong Kong didn't mean wealth. Not yet. Jackie was still being paid poorly. His contracts were exploitative. Studios owned him the same way Master Yu had owned him. He was making millions for other people while barely scraping by himself. The system was designed to keep performers poor and desperate, dependent on studios for their next job. Jackie realized he needed to take control. He started his own production company, Golden Way Films, in 1980. It was a massive risk. If his films failed, he would be financially ruined. But if they succeeded, he would finally own his work. Finally profit from his own blood and broken bones. He directed, produced, and starred in films where he had complete creative control. He designed every stunt. He choreographed every fight. He built elaborate set pieces that would be destroyed in spectacular fashion. He nearly killed himself dozens of times. And it worked. Project A in 1983 was a massive hit. Police Story in 1985 broke box office records across Asia. Armor of God in 1986, despite nearly killing Jackie, became one of the highest-grossing films in Hong Kong history. Jackie was finally making real money. Not stuntman wages, not struggling actor paychecks. Real, substantial wealth. He bought his first house. He bought his parents a house, the same parents who had sold him. He started investing in real estate. He was building something permanent. But Hollywood still eluded him. His attempts to break into American cinema in the early 80s had failed miserably. The Big Brawl and the Cannonball Run were humiliating experiences that reminded Jackie that America didn't want him. Not yet. He returned to Hong Kong and continued making films on his terms. He perfected his craft. He became not just an action star but an auteur, a complete filmmaker who controlled every aspect of production. His films were distinctly Jackie Chan. No one else could replicate his style. No one else was crazy enough to risk their life for a 3-second shot. Then came 1995, Rumble in the Bronx, the film that changed everything. It was a modest hit in America, but a huge hit on home video. American teenagers discovered Jackie Chan through rental stores. They showed the tapes to their friends. Word spread. By the time Rush Hour was released in 1998, America was finally ready. The film made $244 million worldwide. Jackie was suddenly a global superstar at 44 years old. The money poured in. Rush Hour 2 in 2001 made even more. Rush Hour 3 in 2007 continued the success. Jackie was starring in Hollywood blockbusters, commanding salaries in the tens of millions per film. He owned multiple properties. He had investments worth hundreds of millions. He had gone from a child sold for nothing to a man worth an estimated $400 million. But the journey left scars. Jackie's body was destroyed. He had broken almost every bone. His spine was damaged. His hearing was impaired. He had a hole in his skull. He couldn't perform insurance for most of his stunts because no company would cover him. He was a walking testament to the price of success. His personal life suffered too. His marriage was troubled. His relationship with his son was distant and complicated. He had affairs that became public scandals. He became controversial for his political statements supporting the Chinese government, which alienated some fans. Success hadn't made him happy. It had made him complicated. In interviews, Jackie often reflects on his journey with a mix of pride and melancholy. "I have everything now," he once said. "Money, fame, respect, but I'm still that scared little boy sometimes. Still trying to prove I'm not worthless. Still trying to make people applaud. The wounds from the China Drama Academy never fully healed. The abandonment by his parents never stopped hurting. Success didn't erase his past. It just made it more expensive. But here's what matters. Jackie Chan took pain that should have destroyed him and turned it into art. He took poverty that should have trapped him and turned it into empire. He took a childhood that should have left him broken and turned it into a story that inspires millions. Every time a kid from a poor neighborhood watches a Jackie Chan movie and thinks, maybe I can make it too, Jackie's suffering gains meaning. Every time someone gets knocked down and decides to get back up because that's what Jackie would do, his broken bones heal a little. From $1 to $400 million. From worthless to priceless. From abandoned to immortal. That's not just a rags to riches story. That's a testament to human resilience. That's proof that your beginning doesn't determine your ending. That where you start doesn't matter nearly as much as how hard you're willing to fight. Jackie Chan's greatest stunt wasn't falling from a clock tower or sliding down a pole of exploding lights. His greatest stunt was surviving, getting up, refusing to quit, turning pain into power. That's the real story. That's the one worth $400 million and every broken bone along the way.